that when I switched over from a standard diet to keto, I kind of felt like I leveled up a little bit and I felt amazing. But what I didn't realize is I could feel even better. So when I switched to keto, to carnivore, I like leveled up again. I felt like I had even more energy.
This episode is brought to you by Basic Keto Box. Basic Keto Box is a premium subscription box for Keto Dieters. It offers a wide variety of keto-friendly snacks delivered right to your door. Not only that, with your subscription box, you also get a 30-day meal plan that includes breakfast, lunch, and dinner, complete with macronutrients in every meal. We have an exclusive deal just for Ketones and Coffee podcast listeners. Receive an extra 20% off with your first month subscription. Head on over to basicketobox.ca to subscribe today. Hey guys, welcome to the Ketones and Coffee podcast, where I bring in guests to discuss their own personal experience with a ketogenic diet. Our next guest was your typical yo-yo dieter for years, but now with the help of an animal-based way of eating, she was able to get back to a healthy weight, get off her medication, and fully manage her symptoms of depression. With her newfound love for passion and health and nutrition, she seeks to educate others through her podcast at Carnivore Roundtable and Instagram at Fat Fuel, and speak to how this way of eating is more than just a diet. Alysha, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
I'm so happy to have you on, and thank you for taking the time today. This is so amazing. I can't wait to dive in.
Me too. Yeah, looking forward to it.
Another installment for our World Carnivore Month series, and this is a great way to end that. And I'm so grateful to you and how you got started with the carnivore lifestyle. We will review the benefits, and then we will do some fun Q&A at the end. So fun episode. So stay tuned. So let's start. So learning stories from other people inspired me to do what I do. I help by sharing great stories to hopefully inspire someone. And even if it's just one person, it's definitely worth it for me. So I'd like to dive in here. And I love what you stand for. And it's super inspiring to watch. And I followed you, for a bit now. And I want to know how you got started.
Sure. Yeah. So you want me to talk a little bit about my previous relationship with food prior to my current lifestyle? Okay, awesome. So, it's been a long journey of yo-yo dieting over the years. I spent a lot of time going back and forth between what I thought was healthy. So eating a lot of fruit smoothies and low-fat snacks and really minimizing the amount of red meat that I was having and, just getting really frustrated because I wasn't seeing results. So I would just kind of go back to eating junk foods and chips and hamburgers with buns and all of that stuff. But, of course, I inevitably ended up gaining a bunch of weight back. So then I would go on to a crash diet, trying to regain some sort of control with what I was eating. And then it was just really cyclical. And then I'd be like, okay, let's not do this anymore. Let's get something a little bit more healthy. But then it's like, yeah, I'm not seeing results, going back to junk and then the crash diet. So that was something that I struggled with for many, many years before I found low carb diets. And it was really hard, like not just physically, but mentally as well. It was really draining. So I wanted to break free of that cycle. And, in hindsight, even though it was, I would say, disordered eating, I didn't really think twice about it, right? Because it's very normalized in society. You look around and everyone's on a diet and everyone's always been on a diet.
Yeah.
I know some women who have been dieting for 50 plus years. And so, I was like, but I don't want to do that. So I was so happy to find a way of eating that didn't feel like a diet and actually left me feeling awesome as well.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned yo-yo dieting because I'd like to talk to you a little bit about that. And the word that comes out to me is accountability because I was a yo-yo dieter myself. So I would have a goal for summer and I would be trying to do a caloric deficit going towards my goal. And it's just not sustainable for me. I found myself, gaining a bunch of weight right after summer, and just looking for that more sustainable diet, and I found keto. So here's my theory. A lot of people have struggled with this, and it's so easy to feel alone, but you're not. And it
No.
affects all of us. And I'll give an example. Yesterday, I was driving with my wife, right? And we received a text message about a project that we were working on, and it just didn't hold up. So it really didn't go how we wanted it to go. And it wasn't as planned. So it was unexpected. In that moment, I felt like the world is coming down on me, and I wanted something that would instantly make me feel good, right? I wanted that instant gratification. And I was hungry. I was depressed, right? We were just driving. I wanted a burger. I saw Burger King, right?
Yeah.
But I stopped myself and drove to Mr. Sub and got their keto sandwich instead.
Nice.
So
They have a keto sandwich.
they do.
That's so exciting. I didn't think I knew that.
I didn't know that. Shout out to Crystal for that
Yeah.
tip.
Is that the unbun?
Yes, it is. It is.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
I'll have to check that out.
Check it out for sure. I didn't know that
Yeah.
a week ago.
Wow. That sounds amazing.
Yeah. And so there are moments in our lives where we don't feel the best, regardless of how much you wanted this in the beginning. And that motivation runs out. How do you catch yourself in these moments? What do you tell yourself?
I've spoken about this before, but one of my biggest wins for me when switching to a low carb diet was that I was able to get off my medication. So I was on antidepressants on and off for over 10 years. And getting off my medication and managing my symptoms of depression through diet alone is a huge motivator for me. So that really helps me stay consistent in terms of my diet and just feeling generally better, right? I have more energy. I feel more mentally sharp. And so that's not to say that I don't have treat meals every once in a while. I certainly do, because I look at this like a lifestyle, and it's not just a diet. It's not just something I'm doing for 30 days. And to make it sustainable for me, I do allow myself to have treats here and there. But again, I'm able to very easily switch back to this way of eating just because I feel so much better eating this way. So that's my biggest motivation and helping me stay consistent. And then of course, just being prepared. There's like that quote, fail to prepare to fail type thing, and then you have moments of weakness or you get stressed out about something and you want to turn to food as comfort, which a lot of us often do. It's really just having something available to you that you can have, and it's not going to get you off track.
Yeah, I'm glad that you mentioned, my motivation now has became internal, right? That feeling that feeling that of accomplishment when I do stick to my diet, stick to that lifestyle. And last night, that moment of weakness was burger for me. I love burgers, right? That was that one thing that I miss so much. Thank you, Unbun, for your buns, and if not for that, another shout out is Burger Priest. They do have Unbun burgers, so shout out to Burger Priest. And just having prepared for, say.
And quite honestly, I'm not above just going and getting patties, maybe patties with cheese. I mean, right now I'm trying to limit the amount of dairy that I'm consuming, but if I'm in a pinch and I really want a burger or something, I might just go to McDonald's and get some patties, and that's it. And people probably think I'm crazy just ordering like that, but it's delicious, it's cheap, and to my understanding, 100% Canadian beef. So I love that.
Yeah, so exactly, right? You could have that. You could have pizza or what if you like that. And burgers. You could definitely have a version of that for keto. So
absolutely.
Carnivore. Let's talk carnivore diet, right?
Yeah.
Is there a right way and wrong way of doing it?
According to some, but I don't think you need to be that dogmatic about it. I think there's room for variation within an animal-based diet. So you can have Of course, strict carnivore, which is more the lion diet. Michaela Peterson's big on this. So that's just beef, salt, water, and nothing more. Other people like myself do that, but with added eggs and maybe a little bit of dairy. Some people are flexible carnivores, so maybe during the week they'll be very animal based, and then on the weekend maybe they'll have a salad or something like that. So it just really depends on what your goals and what your body's okay with. So bringing up Michaela Peterson again for a moment, she has issues, she has reactions to things when she strays from that very specific strict diet. I am not like that. In fact, I can incorporate additional seasonings into my diet, or sometimes the odd salad, if I feel like it, if I want something a little bit extra. I don't do that all the time because I still feel that I feel best on mostly just meat, but it's nice to know that there is that flexibility there. So everyone does approach it a little bit differently. I know a lot of carnivores who still, drink coffee, myself included. And so, that's technically a plant-based
You can't have
item.
coffee?
You
can't have, wow. Oh no.
Technically, I mean, a lot of people do, and people don't really think twice about that, or tea. I mean, technically not carnivore, but I would say that's one of the more acceptable plant-based items in this way of eating.
Why isn't coffee why isn't coffee carnivore?
Well, it's bean. It's not an animal product, right? So that's basically it. When you're carnivore, it's ruminants, maybe the odd chicken or something, but it's mostly just beef. Anything that comes from an animal is good, but anything additional to that is not. So some people argue, for example, that honey would be considered a carnivore food item simply because it's produced by bees. So it's technically an animal product. A little loophole there. I personally have tried it. I know there's a lot of benefits to consuming local honey, especially if you have seasonal allergies, because it introduces those things to your body at a very low level. But I found that it triggers sweets cravings for me. So I used to, not having a huge sweet tooth, I was never big on candy or ice cream or donuts, but I loved chocolate and I would eat it a lot. And, when I first started keto, because I am actually more of a savory person, I feel like I took to it really well, but every once in a while, usually around my time of the month, I was like, I have to have some chocolate. So getting rid of the sugar really helped that. Getting rid of the sweeteners completely got rid of those cravings. But then when I tried reintroducing honey again, I was finding that, after dinner, after having a big savory meal, I'm like poking around the pantry trying to find something. But of course there wasn't anything because I know myself.
You're okay. So I want to go back then. I want to go back to your first week, right? You decided to switch to the keto diet. And what's the hardest thing for you? What's the challenge? What was because for me,
for with keto or carnivore?
Okay, carnivore.
Yeah. Okay. So when I switched to carnivore, I had already been keto for about, I want to say a year and a half, maybe 2 years. So I would say my transition wasn't as shocking to my body as it may be for other people who kind of just go from a standard American diet straight to carnivore, but I certainly did experience some issues. So one that's not so uncommon is just like a digestive upsets, I'll say. So some people deal with loose bowels for sometimes several weeks, sometimes not at all. And then sometimes for some people it lasts a little bit longer. For me, I'd say there was maybe a 2-week period in which I dealt with that, but it wasn't the end of the world because I was in a lot of Facebook groups with other animal-based eaters, and they basically were like, it happens, but it'll go away. So I'm like, okay, light at the end of the tunnel, just get through this and I'll be good. Something else that I struggled with though was I guess the lack of variety. So over time, I was slowly getting rid of vegetables from my diet, and my plate was really looking more animal based. But when I first went carnivore, because I challenged myself, I'm like, let's just do it for 30 days and see how I feel. But at the time I was just like, okay, so ground beef. So I was eating a lot of ground beef, and I got sick of it. I was like, oh my God, I didn't even think that. Yeah, and there's like steaks and roasts
Mm-hmm.
and all sorts of
Mm-hmm.
other delicious stuff. But for whatever
Mm-hmm.
reason, I just thought I had to do ground beef. So for a while, I was like, oh gosh, how boring.
Mm-hmm.
As well as there was a general lack of information. And I found this too when I entered the keto
Mm-hmm.
space about 4 years ago. But, there's not a lot out there in terms of animal based diets.
Mm.
So that was something I struggled with, especially too when people question it,
Yeah.
right? And I don't often say this, but I say that I started my low carb journey
Mm-hmm.
about 4 years ago, and that's not entirely true. I had dabbled with it in university as
Mm-hmm.
well, but at the time I had someone make a comment about how unhealthy it was,
Mm.
and I was like, and I didn't have any like ammunition to refute that in any
Mm-hmm.
way because there was just no
Mm-hmm.
information out there. So I was a little worried when people are like, well, how are you going to get your vitamins?
Mm-hmm.
Aren't you going to get scurvy? Like blah blah
Mm-hmm.
blah. And so I was like, oh crap. But I really just stuck to my guns.
Yeah.
I was like, look, I'm gonna just do this,
Yeah.
whatever. And I certainly had a couple people thinking that I was crazy. I remember going
Mm.
into work, of course, with my big bowl of ground beef
Oh.
and a couple of eggs, and people are like, "What are you eating?" And I'm like, "I don't know what to tell
Yeah.
you."
Yeah.
I thought it was crazy too. Yeah.
It
Oh gosh.
is. It is funny. It's this diet is still so disruptive to people, right? Fat and all that.
Yeah, that's a big one. They're
Mm.
like, "Oh my gosh, you're gonna give yourself a heart
Yeah.
attack, eating this way. That's not good for you."
It-
I'm like, "Okay."
Do you still explain yourself to people, or did it become normal now?
No, I mean, my closest friends and family know that I've been eating this way
Mm-hmm.
for like 4 years
Mm-hmm.
now. And so they've just kind of
Oh,
accepted that
okay.
I'm a little bit bonkers. And I would say some of my closest friends I actually met on Instagram through the Keto Carnivore
Mm-hmm.
community. So I definitely don't get slack from them. But
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I mean, at this point, I'm like, look, I'm not going to argue with anyone
Mm.
about how I choose to fuel
Yeah.
my body. You can tell me your opinions on it, whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, everyone's a citizen nutritionist these days, it seems.
Yeah.
But I'm like, okay, well, my body, my choice. If you
Yeah.
don't want to eat this way, then don't. But
Mm.
I feel best eating this
Yeah.
way. And I'm going to continue to do that. So, yeah, I don't really argue with people about it anymore. I'm just like, okay.
Wow, it's this is a journey, and like you said, I've met a lot of great people on Instagram. I started it to educate myself, and and going into like IG pages where they share their recipes, they share their transformation, they share,
Mhm.
just it. You become accountable to yourself as well, and I use that as that to motivate me. And yeah,
Absolutely.
so that has been a great tool for me,
Hmm.
and reaching out to the community is perfect. And like what you're doing here now, you are sharing your story, and we're hoping to impact somebody that maybe would listen to this, and
Hmm.
would have the same experiences, and maybe you say something that would click to them and will help them, going forward. So it is you have to know where to start, and you have to educate yourself in the beginning, and you got to know the tools that help you. You got to know your body, is
Yeah,
if you feel good on this lifestyle, and you don't have to explain yourself to others, right? And that's so amazing.
exactly.
That's so amazing to you, and I'm glad you're sharing your story. Thank you so much. Um okay, so let's dive in here to I want to help people be able to start this the right way, right? And um if I'm a friend that wants to start this carnivore diet, what's a good place to start Wh- for you?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I would definitely tell people, you're going to want to commit to this thing
Mm-hmm.
for at least 30
Mm-hmm.
days. That will give you enough time to really get into the groove of
Mm-hmm.
things and feel the benefits. And really, like, what's 30
Yeah.
days? You're, and a lot of people don't realize too that, they don't maybe feel as great as they could. We have our baseline and it's
Mm-hmm.
just meh.
Yeah.
And as we get older, we're, a little more
Mm-hmm.
tired and our joints are a little bit more creaky. And, you don't really think twice about it. And I certainly didn't until I started eating low carb. And then I was like, whoa, I'm
Right?
I kind of felt like I leveled up, and I was just like, I feel like a whole new person. It's crazy.
Yeah.
And so now that I have that baseline established, if I ever have, a day or two that I eat off plan, I can feel
Mm-hmm.
it. I don't feel as
Mm-hmm.
sharp. I am
Mm-hmm.
lethargic, and like my knees start to hurt. And I was like, okay, that's curious. So yeah, giving people giving themselves 30 days to do
Mm-hmm.
this. I would certainly say that it's good to start out with red meat alone. It's
Mm-hmm.
very nutritionally dense. It's awesome. It's a good place to start, but you don't have to necessarily limit yourself to that. It really depends on what your goals are,
Mm-hmm.
right? So the carnivore diet in its strictest form is really an elimination diet. So if you want to get a good idea of what triggers your body, so you might be eating certain things and you get really bloated, which is common, but that's not normal.
Mm-hmm.
Or again, maybe you just feel slightly off after eating a certain thing. So by going really back to basics and reestablishing that baseline, and then being able to like slowly introduce different things, you'll get an idea of what those triggers are. So that could be a great idea. Or what you could do is a little bit broader. So when I first started, I wasn't super strict forever. I did try that for a little bit, but I soon after introduced a little bit of chicken, usually in the form of
Mm-hmm.
wings, definitely not like boneless, skinless chicken breast, but I had chicken
Mm-hmm.
wings. I do eat bacon. I know some people are very Puritan
Uh-huh.
and they're just
Mm-hmm.
like, no, but that's something that's on the table for me. I do a little bit of
Mm-hmm.
cheese, not a ton. Um, but yeah, just finding that variety, and then steak, of course. But you don't need to eat steak all the time every
Mm-hmm.
day. I think that's actually one of the biggest myths about this diet, that it needs to be super expensive. And that's not the case. You can buy those cheaper cuts, you can slow cook them, you can buy in bulk
Mm-hmm.
at a wholesale club, you can eat the ground beef.
Mm.
It doesn't have to be ribeyes all day, every day. I
I
wish.
wish.
But
Wow,
yeah,
really? I
that would
thought
be
that was
sweet.
the bunch.
Yeah, I wish. Oh my goodness. But yeah, so that's all something to
Mm-hmm.
consider. And for me, electrolytes are very important. So
Mm.
I make sure to supplement with sodium and
Mm-hmm.
magnesium and even a little bit of potassium. And that's not to say that everyone is like that. I mean, I generally think that people should be
Mm-hmm.
consuming more salt than they
Mm-hmm.
think, but I do know carnivores who are not that liberal with their salt intake, and they seem to be feeling
Mm.
fine. So that's something that you're going to need to do. And on that point, it's really just experimenting within the low carb
Mm-hmm.
realm, right? It's not a one size fits all when it
Mm-hmm.
comes to this
Yep.
approach. I certainly have done a ton of experimentation in
Mm.
the low carb realm, and just finding a way of eating that fits my lifestyle the best and that makes me feel the best. It's the same thing with the protein to fat ratio.
Mm.
Do you want to eat organ meats? Maybe
Mm-hmm.
not. Are you okay adding pepper to your food? Are eggs okay? Maybe just the egg yolk.
Mm.
So, just playing around. It doesn't mean you have to get it completely right the first time.
Mm-hmm.
There's room to grow and learn and really listen to your body. But when you do go back to basics with a carnivore diet, it is
Mm-hmm.
so much
Mm-hmm.
easier to do. So I feel much
Mm-hmm.
more in tune with myself and
Mm.
what it needs and what makes me feel good. And with that, I've also been able to take a more intuitive eating approach. So
Mm.
I don't count calories, I don't track macros. I simply eat when I'm hungry and I stop when I'm
Mm-hmm.
full. And a really easy way to do that is, not making your food hyper palatable. And that's not to say that my food doesn't taste good. It certainly does. I love using lots of salt,
Mm-hmm.
adds lots of
Mm-hmm.
flavor. Like there's nothing I love more than a big juicy ribeye
Mm.
with some salt and maybe some butter on top. But I feel like a lot of people try to do so much with their food and make it just like
Mm.
amazing. And like that's fine every once in a
Mm-hmm.
while. But when it comes to intuitive eating and really
Mm-hmm.
just fueling your body
Mm-hmm.
with
Mm-hmm.
food, the better it tastes, the harder it is to
Mm-hmm.
stop when you're actually
Right.
full. And then you go into like glutton mode. You're like,
Mm.
oh, I can't eat
Yeah.
anymore, but I'm going to because this is bomb,
Yeah.
So that's something that I've learned too. Yeah.
So when you switch over to the carnivore diet, what's the benefit that you felt? The first benefit.
So I had mentioned that when I switched
Mm-hmm.
over from a standard diet to keto, I
Mm-hmm.
kind of felt like I leveled up a little
Mm.
bit and I felt
Mm-hmm.
amazing. But what I didn't realize is I could feel even better. So
Mm-hmm.
when I switched to keto, to carnivore, I like leveled up again. I felt like I had even more energy. I was even more sharp. I was like, oh, that's curious, you know? So I would say that maybe.
I'm definitely going on carnivore now. Oh, a ribeye tonight for sure.
A ribeye. That's my absolute favorite. Oh my gosh.
So does it matter if excuse me, that the beef is grass fed? Does that really matter?
You know, there's different schools of thought on this. I certainly like to support local farms, not factory farms, but like local, sustainable, regenerative farms. Which, by the way, I don't. Are you in Canada? I forget.
Yeah, Mississauga actually.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. So at least in Canada, our cows are grass fed until a certain point, and then they tend to be grain finished. And some people, you know, will argue it till the cows come home, which is better. I personally prefer the flavor of the grass fed grain finished beef. It tastes a little bit better. I find that grass fed can be on the gamier side. And that's not to say that I wouldn't necessarily eat it, but it tends to be more expensive. And if I'm not enjoying it as much, then I'm like, you know, we'll see. And for me, I am kind of in the mindset that even if it's not 100% grass fed, eating this way, a meat diet, even if it's not the best meat, is still better than eating a standard diet. That said, you know, if I were to go to the grocery store and get a steak, or find some, I don't know, what am I trying to say? If I was going to go to the grocery store, or if I wasn't able to necessarily get all grass fed, grass finished, what I would do is maybe look for a leaner cut and then add fat to it. But oftentimes I source my meats from those local farms, and I feel very confident in the quality of them. But again, it's like, it's what you can afford, right? So maybe if you're not able to get the best cuts, going for leaner cuts, and then just adding some butter on top, or tallow, suet, whatever it is that suits your needs. But yeah.
Snacking. What can I snack on the carnivore diet?
So I'm kind of in the mindset that if you're eating enough during your designated meal times, you shouldn't have to snack. I don't like the idea of snacking, because it doesn't actually give your body enough time to do the whole resting in between digesting. And that time is really important. And that's why intermittent fasting and even extended fasting is really good, because it allows that autophagy to happen. And that's going to go in and get rid of those damaged cells and really sort of like renew your body, for lack of a better expression. So I'm not a big fan of eating in between meals, because I think it is important to give your body that time. However, I mean, there are days that I wake up and I am snacky. And so most days, I like either like jerky type things. And I'm not talking about the super cured in sugar ones, but you know, there's like carnivore crisps and like those types of things. If you're not familiar, or if you are familiar, maybe a little bit of cheese. That's something that I am trying to get away from, though. I don't think it's a great snack, but certainly in a pinch, it's good. Hard-boiled eggs are amazing, and people often overlook them. I love a good hard-boiled egg. Maybe I'm 80 years old. I don't know, but that's good to me. And even bacon. Again, if you're a person who is okay with bacon, just have some bacon cooked up and ready to go to nibble on. You know, easy peasy. So in terms of snacks, I would say those would probably be your best go-to. Or, you know, you cook up some steak, cut it up, just nibble on that. Leftovers. Why not?
How about pork rinds? Pork rinds is good, right?
Pork rinds are good. I mean, you have to be mindful of the sourcing. Some of them are cooked in vegetable oils, which is something that I choose to avoid as much as I possibly can. So that's something to be mindful of. But generally, yeah, if you could go get them like from the butcher shop and they're just like cooked in their own lard or something, then I think that's a great snack.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, I do have one from Buster Rhinos. I don't know if ketchup is allowed. Ketchup is allowed.
Well, so Buster Rhinos does the basically is low
Mm-hmm.
carb, right? So I think that even though maybe some of the ketchup flavoring has
Mm.
some additional ingredients, it still is generally low carb.
Good.
Yeah. I actually have a whole
Oh no.
bag of Buster Rhino pork
Yes.
rinds in my room
Guys.
over here. I think they make for a great snack. Maybe
Mm-hmm.
not for a movie because they're like so crunchy. Oh my gosh, but
Yeah.
they're good.
Yeah.
You know, it kind of helps with the chip cravings. Like
Mm-hmm.
chips are my
Exactly.
kryptonite, and that was
Same.
probably something I struggled with the most when I was switching over to keto. So if you were just looking for a nice crunchy snack,
Yes. It's
that's
a
a good one.
lifesaver. It's a lifesaver, guys. And I don't miss Lay's ketchup. So get on that bandwagon. And
Yeah.
thank you so much. You touched on intermittent fasting and autophagy. How long have you? What's the longest that you fasted?
My longest fast was 95 hours.
Mm.
I was actually looking to do 100, but I had an event that evening.
Mm-hmm.
So I opted to cut it early
Mm-hmm.
and just have a little bit of nibble of
Mm-hmm.
food. But that was my longest one by a long shot. I would say on average, my fasts are between 60 to 70
Mm-hmm.
hours
Mm-hmm.
or so. And I do a lot of 24 to
Mm.
36
Mm-hmm.
ones and intermittent fasting as well. So a lot of times I will just fast after dinner until maybe noon or sometimes even more.
Mm.
I like the idea of OMAD or two meals a
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
day. In an ideal world, I would eat one
Mm-hmm.
giant meal probably around 3 or
Mm-hmm.
4 p.m.
Mm-hmm.
and then just not eat for the rest of the day.
How often do you do the 70 hours?
That not very
Mm-hmm.
often. I was really in like a fasting
Mm-hmm.
mode a couple of years
Mm-hmm.
ago, but I haven't done any extended fasts
Mm-hmm.
in a
Mm-hmm.
while. And I do find that during the winter, they tend to be a little bit more
Mm-hmm.
difficult because your body is really craving that comfort,
Mm-hmm.
that warmth. And I personally find, and speaking to my friends as well, when you're fasting, your body temperature drops really
Mm-hmm.
low, and in the winter when it's so
Mm.
cold, that's not really
Yep.
something that you want with
Yep. Yep.
freezing. I'd be going to bed with
Mm-hmm.
sweatpants and a sweater and a
Mm-hmm.
blanket and then another blanket and maybe one
Yeah.
more, and I'm just like, I don't love this.
I always wanted to do. I haven't done 24 hours, but I do OMAD on a regular basis now.
Mhm.
Um, Before that, I practiced 16 and 8 for about a couple of years.
Yeah.
And then I switched into the OMAD fasting. So,
Yeah.
what would you tell me? How would I prepare for a 70-hour fast?
So I would recommend that you work yourself up, much
Mm.
like anything else. You kind of have to exercise your fasting muscle.
Mm.
So, not just going from 16 hours to
Mm-hmm.
70, that's a lot. You're certainly putting yourself on the right path by being, fat fueled.
Mm. Yep. Yep.
Shameless plug. But, when you're not running on glucose, it's a lot easier because you have this sustained energy source, right? And your body's able to tap into its own fat stores when you're fasting. But working yourself up to that slowly over time. So, working yourself up to doing longer
Mm-hmm.
fasts, and in the interim, not being afraid to use different
Mm-hmm.
crutches. So, when I first started fasting, I would have bone broth.
Mm.
I might have some coffee with a splash of cream in
Mm.
it. Now, if I'm fasting, it's strictly black coffee and
Mm-hmm.
water. But some purists will say not even
No
coffee,
coffee.
water only. Yeah. And then, dry fasting is also a thing as well, which I haven't personally
Mm-hmm.
tried, but it's something that I'm interested in doing. But to my understanding, if you were to dry fast,
Mm-hmm.
you shouldn't be doing that for more than 24
Mm.
hours.
I want to do it for autophagy. I want to try.
Yeah. So I would say, and it's interesting too, so the fasting is a little bit different even for men and for
Mm-hmm.
women. So I believe it's for men, you'll start getting those benefits at around the
24
24-hour
hours?
mark, and for women, it's around 36
Mm.
hours. And at a certain point, and I believe it's around 72 hours, the benefits actually kind of peak and then level out. So you don't actually get any additional
Mm-hmm.
autophagy
Mm-hmm.
benefits after a certain point.
Mm-hmm.
It kind of just levels out there. So
Mm.
with that being said, unless you really need to, I don't think
Mm.
it's necessary to be fasting for
Mm-hmm.
like a week
Mm-hmm. Yep.
straight, but rather just incorporating some of those shorter long-term
Yeah,
fast,
yeah.
more frequently.
I definitely experience focused, heightened. My I'm able to listen a lot better, and
Hmm.
I am more focused in what I'm doing. It's just the cognitive functions is heightened when I'm
Yeah,
on OMAD. It's just amazing.
I feel very focused.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's incredible. I don't know how else to say that, but it's true. The
Mhm.
clarity is just
When
incredible.
I'm doing, say, if I have an interview, I wouldn't eat anything in the morning. I wouldn't have lunch, and if it's just a busy a day for me, I wouldn't have anything until dinner.
Hmm.
And just it helps
Yeah,
me just to be more engaged with my with
absolutely.
my guest, and it helped me a lot. I'm not like you said, it's hard to explain, but if
Hmm.
when you experience it, it's hard to go back to that old habit because you would instantly, because you could now compare
Yeah.
what you've
Again, it's that
experienced.
baseline has
Mm-hmm.
changed, and you know
Mm-hmm.
how much better you can feel
Mm-hmm.
that way. And even for this, I mean, I haven't eaten since 5:30
Mm-hmm.
last night after
Yeah.
dinner, and I probably won't eat
Mm-hmm.
for a couple hours yet
Mm-hmm.
now, because I feel really good.
Yeah.
And I mean, I've had some black coffee, several
Mm-hmm.
cups, but
Yeah, same.
yeah.
That's a one thing too. Oh no. If I ever want to do a 24-hour fast, I'll have to prepare myself with caffeine. I would have to withdraw myself for maybe a week out of
Okay.
coffee
Yep.
before I get into the 24 hours. We'll see how it goes. Thank you so much for sharing that. It's
Yeah. Of
important
course.
for me, for sure. Okay, so Q&A.
Yeah. Let's.
Let me know. You can pass for sure. We can move on to the next question, and then we can circle back to that question after. Okay, ready?
Okay. Good. Yeah.
All right. Your favorite drink on Carnivore?
Alcoholic or not?
Well, but it's up to you.
Honestly, I love water. I know that sounds
Mhm. Mhm.
weird, but water with there's this electrolyte,
Mhm.
concentrated electrolyte thing. It's called keto chow,
Mhm.
and it's just like a
Oh.
bunch of stuff in there. I squirt it in my water, and it makes it
Mhm.
salty. And I know I've had friends try it, and they're like, "This is disgusting." But for whatever reason, I really like salty water, and it actually tastes better to me. So yeah, I love a nice salty
I get
water.
that. I get that. I have, my wife wouldn't even try my water because she
Yeah,
knows it will have sea salt in it.
yeah.
Okay.
Um,
So, if you could eat one meal over and over for a week, what would it be?
Okay, so I would get a 20-ounce bone-in ribeye, really
Mm.
nice sear, get it cooked medium rare, and then you put on a nice helping of 3 cheese butter
Mm.
on there and just slathered on top. And
Mm.
that is amazing. I would eat that more
I
than a
would
week
I
straight.
would
I would eat
definitely
that every day for the rest of my life.
I would definitely have ribeye tonight, guys.
Yeah, I mean, I usually get that at the keg, and if I could like recreate that at
Mhm.
home, oh my
Mhm.
gosh, I would
Where
be happy.
so is that your go-to place for a steak?
I love the
Mm.
keg. Honestly, pre-COVID,
Mhm.
I would be there once a week.
Oh, wow.
With my girlfriend eating. Yeah,
Awesome, awesome,
exactly that.
awesome.
So good.
Okay, I would ask you to have a list here. You don't have to have five. I would ask you to list five, but if you don't have to have five. So, okay. 5 items in your grocery list. What would it be?
Um, so steak in any form, but a ribeye would be amazing. Butter, probably a little bit of cheese, cream, and oh gosh, I feel like I'm missing something. Oh, salt.
Oh, okay. Perfect, perfect.
Yeah, yeah.
If you would describe your overall feeling on the animal-based way of eating in just 5 words, you don't have to be a sentence. 5 words, verb or whatnot. 5 words.
Like a sentence or 5 separate
5 separate
words?
words. Yeah.
Okay, I was gonna say best version of myself,
Mm.
but
That's fine. That's one.
energetic, sharp,
Mm-hmm.
happy,
Mm-hmm.
uh, well fed.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's hyphenated. I don't know if that counts. And oh gosh, I don't know. It's hard.
That's fine. You got it. You got it.
Okay. There we go. Maybe well fed me. The two.
That's awesome. Last one. Okay, so if it's possible to make a carnivore version of your favorite food, what's the one food or meal that you're willing to pay the big bucks for?
I would say I love pizza. That was probably one of my favorite meals, pretty low carb. And the good news is you can actually make a pizza. You know, I've made one before. It was a ground beef base. And I mean, well, not completely animal based. I think there was a little tomato paste on there, but you know, slather up a bunch of cheese, the pepperoni. It's great.
Oh yeah.
Or if you could do fathead dough or something, you know, there's lots of ways to make it. It's never the exact same as like Pizza Hut, but it's still very filling and delicious. So yeah, maybe probably pizza.
Would you believe we always do it on Fridays? Pizza Fridays, we have that. It's legit, guys.
Love it. I gotta get that going. That sounds so good.
Yeah. Oh, perfect. We always have ground chicken at home, so we're ready. We're always ready.
Oh yeah, that's so good. I made it one time. It was a crust with it was like rotisserie chicken that I had shredded and some Parmesan and egg, and I did that as the base. And oh my gosh, it was so good.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
All right, that was it. Thank you so much for sharing your story, Alysha. I appreciate you for coming on and sharing your story. I'm really positive that we can bring value to people with everything that you said today. And thank you for coming on. I really appreciate you for taking the time today to join us. Thank you for having me. Thank you so much, Alysha. Yeah. I appreciate you. Bye now. Man, that was so much fun. So that concludes our Carnivore Month series for World Carnivore Month. Thank you guys for tuning in. If you want to get notified, follow us. And until next time, guys.